Hi everyone, my name is Jarisa. I'm a hypnotist, and today I want to talk a bit about this idea of complex PTSD and my history with it and how I understand it based on my own experience. And I say this in a way of I don't treat or diagnose complex PTSD, but I recognize it when I see it and I understand how to navigate it because I have done it for myself. I have brought myself on the other side of complex PTSD, and to be honest, I'm still working through some layers, but those are really just down to reprogramming my subconscious mind. This is not so much about being haunted by the memories that have happened to me in my past. And to be honest, I don't struggle with memories from my past anymore. I don't struggle with the memories of my mother yelling in my face, beating my ass, just being fucking angry all the time, telling me how much of a whore I am, literally wishing upon me that I was going to be another teenage mom like she was. There was a long time where I was really angry with her and my childhood in general. And I really had to grieve the childhood that I did not get, the mother that I did not have. And even to this day, I love my mother dearly. And there was a time in my life where I did wish that she would get hit by a bus. I hold that on God and I don't take it back, to be honest, because she was a really fucking shitty mother growing up. It is what it is. She did not have the tools or the skill sets. She did not have the healing that she needed to do within herself. She did not have the resources to be the person that she needed to be for herself, much less for her kids. And to be honest, I don't blame her. I don't hold it against her. I don't have any anger or hatred in my heart. I don't have any rage like I used to. And that is because I have worked through the emotional components that had tied this together because I had so much self-hatred because of how much my mother seemed like she hated me as a kid. My mother and I don't have this relationship now, and I don't feel the same things that I did 10 years ago, but it affected a lot of my life. It affected my self-esteem in a way of I didn't really try because I really consider myself a piece of shit. I did not believe my life worthy of giving a shit about because I was like, well, if my mother doesn't even care about me, who else is supposed to care about me? And that is a belief system that I have also let go of. And you might be wondering, okay, Drissa, well, how did you get over this? And to be honest, I stumbled upon this by accident. I was already a certified hypnotherapist, in which I call myself a hypnotist because legally here in North Carolina, I'm not a therapist. I have no desire to be a therapist, and so I strictly go by the term hypnotist, even though I am a certified hypnotherapist. I had already started my work as a hypnotherapist, and I was like, oh, I'm going to rewire the subconscious mind. I don't want to be an actual therapist. I went to therapy. Therapy didn't really work for me. I felt better about talking about my problem, but then talking about my problem and my childhood had only gotten me so far, and it never really took away that empty feeling, those emotions that I was still struggling with on a regular basis. And so I kind of got into being a certified hypnotherapist as a hobby. I enjoyed what I did. I had started off with like, I'm going to read these scripts and people's subconscious mind is going to change. Now, I don't operate that way anymore. I don't believe in scripts, but you have to start somewhere with this work, okay? And so I'm coming across these clients who were having deeper emotional issues back in like 2022, might have been early 2023. And I realized that I need more training because I don't know how to navigate some of these emotions coming up. So I ended up hiring a mentor for my hypnosis training, and she specialized in emotional healing in a way of dealing with trauma. She was like, you have to have your own sessions with me so you understand how this works. And I was like, I don't really need sessions. I don't think that I really have that much to work through. And boy, was I fucking wrong. I'm in these sessions. I had about 4 of them. And I remember the first one, I was kind of bypassing everything. I would not lean into my feelings or my emotions. But the second session, I remember leaning into so much anger. I had so much anger. I was angry for like 3 days, okay? But when that anger subsided, I had the most amount of calm and peace that I had ever experienced in my life. Literally, within those couple of sessions, I was no longer struggling with the amount of anxiety that I had started with. I was like, holy fucking shit, I can just lean into my feelings and get over my shit. And so then I decided to go deeper. At this point, I am committed. I'm like, I am getting over absolutely everything. I am letting everything go. I didn't really know where to start. I was like, okay, I want to go in deeper, but I'm not really quite sure what exactly it is that I'm looking for. And then, like all things in my life, I find a solution. I have found a solution to just about every question, every problem that I have. And of course, I found one for this. I had a friend who did intuitive movement. And her process was is that you have emotions and stories within yourself that you can lean into through your movement. And that how you navigate your movement, your body, can tell you a lot about what you really believe about yourself. And at the time, I wasn't really into the somatic thing. I did not really believe in the intuitive body movement stuff. I was like, there's no way that this is going to work. But I ended up taking a couple of classes with her and I realized, oh, I'm really uncomfortable with myself. I don't like being in my body. And so I'm learning more about this idea of shame. As I'm sitting with this idea of shame, I was applying what I was taking away from her classes in my own time. And in my physical office, I would stay after hours after I had a client, and I would spend 2 and 3 hours doing intuitive movement, listening to music, and really feeling into the emotions that were coming up. And that led me even deeper to more childhood anger that I was experiencing. And don't get me wrong, I felt pretty great after the first couple of hypnosis sessions that I had. But as I'm leaning into these childhood emotions that I'm still carrying, I realized that I had these memories coming up. These memories that would take me even deeper into some of these spaces of anger and sadness and grief and shame, just different emotional components in these memories that I was moving through was literally like PTSD coming up as I was allowing myself to listen to the music and allow those emotions to naturally surface themselves. And then I would allow my body to move in a way that felt natural for it. And so sometimes I would feel myself just like that anger coming up and the anger was asking to move. And so then I was like shaking my body around, but then I would come across these places of sadness and I would want to like hold myself and lean even deeper into that sadness. So I was feeling that some of my muscles wanted to be contracted, some of my muscles wanted to be stretched. And I realized my emotions are tied to how I carry myself in my 3D. And mind you, I was doing this for like 3 months straight. So for 2 and 3 hours, a couple times a week, I was in my office just doing some kind of weird body movement. I don't know if anybody was downstairs, but I would be jumping around and dancing and just like, just like really allowing emotions to come up, going as deep as I possibly could. And to be honest, it looks crazy on the outside, but it works. And as I'm going through this process, I'm feeling so much lighter. I feel so in tune with myself. I feel in tune with this idea of the universe. I am unstoppable. And then I noticed that as I'm going through this process, I would have deeper memories come up. Now it wasn't just my childhood stuff, it would be things that I experienced with friends, exes, sexual experiences, literally little memories that would come up that I was still holding on to that was asking me to move through these in real time. But it wasn't just happening whenever I was creating this idea of like this self-hypnosis meditative space where I like had this curated space, the lighting was curated, the music was curated. It was like I could jump around and move around. I was having these spaces come up while I was driving. I would have this spontaneous memory come up and it would remind me of somebody, a conversation that I had, and then I would have these emotions come up. It literally felt like a hijacking, like I was being taken over. I would regress back to that experience and be back in that experience. It was like PTSD takeover. And I'm like, how am I supposed to move through this? And so instead of freaking out about this experience, I actually just ended up leaning into it and applying exactly what I did in my office, but I did it in a way of breathing. And then I realized that there was a way of focus. Not only was I focusing here in the present moment, I was also focusing what was happening in my subconscious mind and my body. I'm literally having to learn to focus in 3 different layers. It seemed like really crazy. I'm like, how can I be here but also be there? And then I realized, oh, I'm becoming a little bit more conscious in some areas of my life. And then I started playing with this idea of point of view. And so it was like I was learning to be first person, but then I was learning to be third person. And I could see myself over there, but I could feel myself being here in the present moment as though I was that person in that experience. And so I was third person and first person at the same time. I could feel my consciousness like going back and forth of the different points of views on top of leaning into the emotional experiences that I was having. As I would do this, I noticed that I wouldn't have the same issues come back up. I noticed that I was moving past my emotions a lot faster in a way that I wasn't getting stuck in them. Anger, shame, disappointment, grief, those emotions no longer felt stuck. And as I'm going through this, I noticed a couple of things happening in a way of my mother would come to my mind's eye and I wouldn't feel anything at all. It's like she just was there. She's her own person. I am able to accept that she's making the choices that she does because that's her choice. She's her own human. I can step back and not feel emotionally attached. I can see her without my past getting in the way, and that was huge for me. And then I recognized I can apply this to other areas of my life. I wasn't stuck on old friendships or old exes, but I will say the layers had only gotten deeper as I did this work in a way of I had to recognize where some of these programs were being overlapped. And so in the spaces of limerence, I learned to recognize I'm not actually hung up on this person. I am hung up on a feeling that I had in regards to my mother, and I am projecting this feeling onto this person. And so what happens if I remove this emotion, this feeling from this person? How do I see this person still? And then I realized I didn't even notice that person. I didn't have any emotional attachment to that person. It was kind of fucked up because I'm like, wow, I never truly seen this person. The only person that I could see is my mother. And so when I think of complex PTSD, I think about the little memories and experiences that have added up that are still being held onto and that are still being projected into our 3D space in a way of how we view ourselves and how we view others. And I recognized that through my work that the personality that I thought that I had was not actually mine. It was literally just trauma responses, layers and layers of trauma responses. And then when I removed those trauma responses, I actually began to start feeling more apathetic, meaning I didn't really feel anything towards myself because holding on to those negative emotions, the anger, the shame, the guilt, those emotions allowed me to feel something about myself. And it took me a couple of years to recognize that I actually have to reprogram these spaces in a way of, okay, I've let all of this shit go. I let go of the rumination. I no longer struggle with anxiety, the mother issues, the anger issues, the whatever. I'm no longer holding on to these things, but I'm still not feeling like I am connected to myself in a way of I liking myself. And then I realized, oh, I actually have to reprogram my mind to like myself, to feel good about my life, to look forward to my future. And so that's part of the reason why I created this YouTube channel is because one, I understand how to navigate these more complex spaces that are not being talked about or addressed in traditional spaces. But also, it doesn't have to be this big scary thing of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to regress into this memory and then I'm going to get lost in myself and be stuck there. It's like you're not going to be stuck there. Chances are you're already in that space. You're already stuck there, but just let me guide you how to come out. I also want to express that addressing the layers of complex PTSD is not the same as developing high self-esteem. Dismantling your complex PTSD is about removing the emotional baggage. It is about your ability to process your emotions and to be able to shift your attention through your emotions whenever they come up. So now you're no longer stuck. You're no longer this pressure cooker that is about to explode. It's that when you move through your complex PTSD, you're letting all of that pressure out. So you're no longer holding on to anything, which is a great place to be. You can absolutely stop there. But if you're going to develop high self-esteem, you actually have to reprogram your mind, which is about shifting your focus. But there's also a difference in letting shit go and also having the ability to navigate through the emotions when they come back up, because we have layers that come up. And so sometimes when we're developing our high self-esteem, we're going to notice these emotional patterns coming up in a way where it really feels like full body takeover, and you have to be able to pull yourself out of these emotional states and focus it back on whatever it is that you actually want to focus on. But that requires you to understand how to navigate through these emotions, which is not the same as letting things go. And so when a client comes to see me because they're like, I just cannot get over my past, what I'm actually helping them do is release these layers of complex PTSD. And I help them navigate the emotions that they have suppressed, because dealing with emotions when you have never really spent time with them, it feels overwhelming. It feels hard. It feels big. It feels overstimulating. And so it's important to understand how to put yourself in specific emotional states. That way you can actually handle the emotions that are ready to come up and you realize this is not as big as I thought it was going to be. And in fact, it can be quite easy. And then I have the clients with anxiety who are stuck in this emotional pattern in a way of they're trying to have a very specific experience, but an emotion, a feeling, some thoughts end up getting in the way. I have to get out of this. It's ruining my life. It's ruining this experience that I want to have. So this is a matter of understanding I have to navigate these emotional layers and then redirect their attention to an experience that they actually want to feel, which is learning to disassociate from certain ideas and then reassociating back to those ideas differently, in which that's exactly what you do with complex PTSD, is that you're disassociating from the ideas from your past in a very specific way, in which the emotions are no longer weighing on you, and then you reassociate back to those past experiences in a way you're just not attached to it anymore. It's not that you hypnotize yourself or I hypnotize you out of forgetting about your past, it's that you're no longer emotionally attached to them, and that's what complex PTSD is, in my opinion, is the emotional attachment that you have to your past on top of some of the belief systems that you were instilled with based on your caregivers and your environment. But that's all that I have for this topic right now. I just kind of wanted to give a rundown of this idea of complex PTSD because I think it's something that needs to be said. It is absolutely resolvable. I want to make it very clear that I don't treat it. I understand what it is, I understand how to navigate it within myself, and I have helped other people move through it. And if you have any questions, don't forget to leave your comments, don't forget to like, definitely don't forget to subscribe. Until the next video.